Hello, cookies! So, welcome to Tea Room. Let me briefly explain what Tea Room basically kind of implies. Tea Room is an idea I had essentially for, I guess you can combine it with, you can see it as a combination between sort of like a vlog of some thoughts that I have, etc. But also mainly discussions of every episode being a topic related to something about baking. So sometimes I really want to talk about maybe inspirations and how you get them, or how you get ideas for making your own recipes, or how I go about making my own recipes, or maybe maybe even just difficulties, certain terms, what do they mean, or things that you might struggle with or that you might need help with as, say, a person who really wants to bake but never done so and just wanted to start to do it at home. And that's essentially what it was like for me. So today I'm going to be talking a little bit about a few things here and there, just some really easy and fun stuff, because I've had a pretty big week making the burger cake, which you can find at the end. In the outro, I'll link you guys there so you can click on it and subscribe as well if you want. But yes, the main important things to talk about today is probably Daiso haul! Okay, so one of the things I really want to talk about is things that I really, places that I really like going. I mean, that's also kind of part of inspiration in general for me, but also because I think really baking has a lot to do with your lifestyle, or like things that you do in life, things that you look at, things that you experience. That is essentially what makes you think of what you like to bake, or what you want to bake, or gives you ideas in general. And it could be very simple things like just having a random chat with someone, or going to a bakery, having a cup of tea, or going to eat something, and then you suddenly just go, oh gee, what about this? Oh yeah, I've never thought about this. And then you suddenly get the idea. Now, okay, so I had a day off today, luckily enough, and I had to get some stuff sorted out for my license, driver's license. And nearby there, because I don't go into the city that often anymore, I wanted to go to Daiso. And if you don't know what Daiso is, in Sydney, it's a bit like a budget shop, but also more like lifestyle. So it has a lot of those things that you would find at a budget shop, but also some food, like little confectionaries, sauces. Price range is probably pretty similar, but generally you'll find like the things there a little bit nicer and less sort of tacky, and most of the times basically the quality is usually a little bit better, or at least it looks a little bit better. Yeah, I just wanted to show you the kind of stuff that I bought today, just really because I thought it was really cute. I also stopped by when I was in the station nearby. There's a German bakery called this. I don't really know how to pronounce it, and I probably won't try. But it's German bakery, and I don't often buy things there because the kind of pastries they do isn't actually my favorite type. Not to say it's bad, but it's just not the type of pastry I generally go for. I find that when I make pastries and stuff, I generally prefer something a bit more juicy and moist. But I think the German bakery things are generally like pretzels, that kind of stuff. They're a little bit more, a bit chewier, a bit more sort of like coffee cake, and it's not always what I crave. So it's that kind of like crumbles, and you get what I mean. But I bought something there because I thought I might grab a little something to try while I'm having, the tea room time here with you guys, and I could snack on something and also show you guys this. But isn't this the cutest thing ever? Because I usually buy their pretzels because I'm a big fan of pretzels. And I saw they had like the little sort of slice bars of things, so I thought I might buy one. And anyway, back to Daiso. So Daiso has a few stores in Sydney. It's one of my favorite places to go. It's the kind of place that is terrible for you because you go in and you're probably the kind of person, you'll probably end up being the person where if you go with a friend who wanted to go in, you'll be the one buying stuff and your friend ends up not buying anything. But it is the kind of place where you hardly ever go out empty-handed. So let's have a look at the things that I've made, that I've bought, because some of these are actually really cool inspirations and some of these are just cool. So I really wanted to share it with you guys. So one of the things I like the most is inspiration can come not just from like the ingredients, which is a lot of times where I find them when I start off thinking about a certain ingredient, how does it match something, etc. But the other thing I do often get inspiration from is the utensils. So like molds or silicone mats or silicone molds, plates, and they're a really good place to buy things like this. I really like the texture of this. To me, it sort of screams for things like that are Japanese or very rustic looking kind of recipes. Maybe like some sort of gelatin based or creme caramel flan, that kind of stuff. Or maybe something really simply small and plated. So I thought that was really cool, and it wasn't too expensive from what I know. And ta-da! That's pretty cool, right? I mean, obviously when I buy some of these things, I try to pick only about 2 or 3 at once, because otherwise I end up buying everything there. But I want to basically kind of slim down the amount that I buy so that I end up picking the really, really good stuff and the things that I know I will absolutely want to use or really feel that I will use. And because I'm pretty experienced with baking now in general, so I kind of know exactly what would be used and what wouldn't. I think this would be really good for, again, maybe like little jelly type of stuff or smaller desserts. It might be really cool for if you want to make like the smaller tiramisus or something that is like cheesecake that's completely smoothed across, which I might really want to do. And fruits will look really nice with the flower patterns. I think these are part of the fun. It just will pop to you when it'll just shout out at you once you get like the right recipe for it at some point. This one, see, bold colors. I had a few things that you might have seen in some of the past videos, like a little sort of ice cream cone looking plastic cup with the spoon. That one's blue, so it's like a really bright blue color. Yeah, it's a really bright blue color. This, I've also had a bright pastel green color. I usually go for pastel because they go best, I think, with most things. Especially when going for like these kind of bright colors, and I have a few things like that in the house already. Like my couch is kind of a bright pastel red almost, so I thought orange would match in pretty well, and just as a part of the set for any videos. And I kind of like this kind of, what would you call these, but like the I don't know, but this kind of stuff, kind of touch-up pan is something I really wanted. You often see these, I guess, used to make sometimes savory, but more like things like creme brulee. That's one of the most common things. I'd like to try something different in this, but I just know that I really want this one, and I definitely will bake something nice in this, and it would look really amazing in some sort of video recipe. So I bought this one just because it came in the right color and, you know, a good amount of options, and just in the right size, so I don't have to make something too big, which is something I've been considering a bit more lately, because when I make recipes, sometimes I used to make them way too big, especially in cakes, because people can easily multiply it bigger if they were gonna try and make a recipe, just by multiplying and calculating the numbers on a calculator, and I don't need to store like a huge cake. So one of the things that you can think about, there's a lot more stuff coming. Fake plants and hanging vines. So hanging vines was something I kind of thought about for ages, and I really do want it. So I went by a budget shop and had a look at this kind of stuff several times. I've actually bought a few things from budget shops and Daiso before, even like sort of the house interior lifestyle living kind of bedroom stuff shops. Saying stuff a lot. Which is all like inside the other sections of the house that you can't see right now, outside the camera. But basically, I tried to have real plants before a few times, and I killed a lot of them, mostly mint, and mint can mint is so much harder to actually plant than imagine. For some reason, some people just plant it outside their house and they would just grow like weed. But for mine, I just kept buying them and kept like burning cash because they just die for no reason. And I didn't even really do anything with them. Didn't give them too much water. Then I gave them too much water, and then either way they died. So I kind of gave up on that at one point. You'll probably be able to track that when you look at my Instagram feed at Sugary Lab. Just all small caps. You'll be able to find a few posts about mint, which is the time frame when I was doing it last year, sort of end of last year, and I was super excited about that. Then I wasn't. But yeah, so I try to make the place look a bit more green by finding more quality looking ones that look really nice. I try to focus on like something that's cheap but also looks good, looks simple, looks sleek, has good color, matches the place, pops a bit color or has vibrant green, and just is in sort of a nice composition of height and that kind of stuff. I've got a hanging thing up there, a little hook, so I thought maybe a vine or something might look a bit better, because on the other side I have one too next to, in front of the TV, and I've put my little chalkboard that I ordered from Etsy up there. Again, that's another pretty cool place, but it is a bit more costly. But Etsy, from what I understand, is kind of like, it's almost like if you know, like eBay. It's like a online ordering place, but you essentially, everyone's more crafty, so everything's like mostly crafted by hand kind of stuff. A lot of the stuff is definitely by DIY or hand, and really high quality stuff. There's a lot of prints, a lot of clothes, cushions that are like shaped like things, like big pancakes, like really cool stuff like that it's kind of stuff that I dig, but I don't really buy that kind of stuff because it's just way too expensive. But definitely really worth checking out if you have the money, because it's so cool. Think about having like that kind of stuff to decorate your place. It'd be comfortable and also really stylish and really fun. Unfortunately I'm broke, so I buy this kind of stuff instead, which is great. I'm not saying anything about Dysel. It's amazing. You should check it out sometime. It's really an easy way to pass time too. Also not too relevant to the baking, but keeping clean is pretty important, I guess. So this is a bunny for dusting, so I can dust, because everywhere I live it always collects dust pretty easily, especially the last place I lived in. So I figured, I always keep thinking I should get something, but I always don't. Like I moved into this current place for about like 2 months and I still haven't managed to buy one. This one's just something cute and similar, very animal looking thing. It's my phone, sorry. It's nothing suspicious. But yeah, this is just like a bath sponge. No, don't fight! Stay with me. And one of the things I've got into from buying ones at work, I've seen a lot of people use these, but I used to be really confused about how it worked. But if you don't know, it's basically what's it called? It's an aroma diffuser. So usually it comes in like a little bottle of some sort, and it's usually sealed. You unseal it. There's some sort of hole that you can, some sort of like surface that's like sealed that you can still poke through afterwards. And you just use those little kind of skewer like wooden dispensers that they're called diffusers. Those sticks basically go in and you spread them out, and all the aroma from the liquid, like essentially have a smell to it, have a very nice fragrance, is basically sucked up like a wick to the top, and then it would just disperse it into the air, something like that. We used one at work and it worked really well, so now that I know how it works and I like them, this is kind of something else I want to try apart from candles. So there was a few flavors today. Aqua blue sounded pretty interesting. I wanted something a little bit more, maybe like less sort of less completely food related this time, because a lot of things in the house, like especially candles that I buy, would be like cinnamon or berries, pomegranate and something. So I figured it might be interesting. This is the only one I couldn't tell what it might smell like, so I thought, why not try it? Maybe it might just be like really salty. I bought some mini brushes. That's just good for brushing stuff, I think, because sometimes I eat with in front of my computer. Sometimes crumbs fall into computers and stuff. Don't judge. This is very good for cleaning it because it's like smaller, finer, but like firmer bristles. So I think this would be really good for that in particular. And I really need to take care of my computer, considering that I lost my last one pretty suddenly, and you know, I use it for editing. So without it, you guys won't get to see any of this stuff. This is a really cool thing. So nearby the place that I go to over that particular Daiso, there's a little chef bakeware kind of place. One of the things that you can find even in budget stores sometimes, depending on where you go or what kind of shop it is, because different budget stores actually store somewhat slightly different things, is if you look for plastic piping tips, it's very good. So places like Daiso, they actually do sell plastic sleeves for like the disposable piping bags, so you can just snip, use and chuck in the bin so that you don't have to wash them again, because reusable ones, if you don't clean them really well, what we learned from pastry school is they smell and sometimes even mold pretty bad. So a lot of people do prefer, if you don't mind spending a tiny bit of money over and over again, each pack can give you at least 10 of them, and you don't always pipe as much depending on what you do. If you do a lot of decorating, then maybe it might be worth getting one and just learning how to clean it very well. For me, I just usually, because I don't pipe unless the project requires it, I tend to go with the sort of use and throw option. But if you find piping tips like this, you can actually DIY and cut certain types with a scissor and get like really cool piping tips. So one of the things that you can do recently that I did at work, and this was only 145 Australian dollars. So you just cut sort of a sharp V shape and do it relatively tall, probably about like maybe a bit shy under 2 centimeters worth of height, and have a sharp V shape. When you pipe it, have the V shape facing the opposite side that you're going from, and so if I pipe from the front, the V shape should be facing the front. And if you angle it almost like 45 degrees and go backwards really well and control it really well, you can actually get something that they call, I think, the Saint Honoré Gâteau kind of piping tip. It's essentially like a wavy ribbon, and it's really, really cool, and you can do it in really short ones or really long ones, or cover a cake completely with it, or cover the top of a tart. You can look it up. It's Saint Honoré Gâteau. If you Google it, you should be able to find a lot of images where they go with that. It's named that way because that cake is mostly decorated that style traditionally. I think this is the kind of stuff that gets me excited, because I find it so cute, and so like, I guess it's the innovative stuff, like the little things that really get me excited. But this is one of the things I really wanted to get for a while, because I think using, say, yogurt or leftover juice to make some ice blocks, it might be a cheaper alternative, and it might be a bit slightly healthier than buying the actual ice creams and stuff. But the cool thing about this one is water, aqua. So I'm just reading directions. But the cool thing about this one is, when I was looking, I was like, this is so strange that it has like a little funnel thing here. And I was like, what is this? Like, are you supposed to drink it? I thought this is meant for like, you know, freezing so you can eat it like an ice block. But essentially what it means is, if you have a look, this actually works this way. So what happens is, you take it off, you start eating, and say you're doing something or it's a bit hot, it would usually melt. So usually everyone's eating an ice block, they would start licking it because all the water is like trickling down onto their hand and everything's melting. This part is like what you do, think of like when you have frozen Coke, it starts watering down and not becoming less slushy like. So usually you have the straw all the way to the bottom, you suck up all the liquid, and then it becomes a bit easier to eat because it's less watery. This is the same idea. So it's like acting like a little straw that you can just suck away all the liquid and then continue eating without having all the mess. Whether it works really well or not, I'm not sure, but it'll be really fun to try out. But I'm probably using this for like yogurt straight up anyway, frozen yogurt, so I don't know if that would be too much of an issue to begin with, but just in case I try anything else, it'll be good to know. I'll keep you guys posted. Could be like a follow-up video or something. And just two of the last two things. If you guys ever like chestnut, or if you haven't before, try and find it in some Asian grocery markets or places like Daiso, because I saw it today at Daiso. The thing about Daiso, the items do change from time to time a lot, like some budget stores, but theirs is a bit more of a changeover in terms of style, etc. So you might find like certain types of stopwatches, then find a complete different set next time. So you do need to kind of decide whether you want something and buy at that time. Otherwise, it might not be there next time. But I found these ones, which is probably better than the ones I found in Asian groceries in supermarkets. Like say the one I usually go to has this as well. And a lot of Taiwanese or not Taiwanese, Chinese places, they have these kind of pre-shelled and almost like more moist and roasted, like pre-roasted chestnuts, and they taste really good. They're slightly sweetened already, and they're just really nice and aromatic and really soft. And the best part is you don't have to go through the shelling process. You usually almost have, when they're like freshly cooked and roasted in those big tumbling things, they usually smell very almost like that kind of burnt malty kind of caramelized kind of smell, which is really nice. It's just a bit of a hassle to like having to, because you have to usually bite it and then halve it and then use a spoon and dig them out, etc. I've done it before, so it does take a bit of time. But apparently if you want to make stuff with chestnut for recipes, for example Mont Blanc, then it is a lot easier to make with these rather than going to find like actual chestnuts, which don't always stock it here in Sydney's supermarkets. It will be a lot to deal with, so it's actually pretty annoying. So using these, you can just like puree it up. It's kind of like going for frozen pumpkin that you can easily puree up into stuff. So it's more versatile, and the flavor's a lot better and more concentrated in these. This one's good because it's actually organic and not added sugar, so you can actually kind of tweak it a little bit more. It might be a little bit easier to work with rather than not sweetening it. You can actually sweeten it yourself. And apparently, and it's a really good snack actually. It's really tasty. That's why I bought two, because I can try one and see how it tastes and use the other one for something small in the recipe. One of the things that I've gotten into lately is I like to drink tea a bit more, like unsweetened tea. So some of the Japanese brands of like bottled tea, it would be like cold tea but not sweetened at all, and it's actually quite refreshing. I quite like it like that. Sometimes obviously I like it cold with honey as well. And one of the things I found is this. So they've got like this thing is really cool in the sense that it's actually made for your bottled waters. So if you have like empty bottled waters that you can use, essentially I think because the instructions are always kind of taped over for these Japanese products in Western countries, just to show you ingredients and like serving sizes, that kind of health information, it's actually very hard to read, despite it's in Japanese that I can't fluently read anyway. But if it was more accessible, I could be a bit more sure about telling you how to use these. But I believe it's more made for, I think, about 500 ml worth, or like a standard bottle size. I'm using, basically, if you have a look at this, this has been here for about maybe like 2 to 3 hours now, I think. But essentially, you're supposed to keep them sealed. Each one, so this one's black tea, which I also really like, and there was green tea too, but I figured why not try the black tea. So they're kind of like this. I'm guessing because of the lack of instructions, you're actually supposed to, because you can't rip it, so you basically cut it, and what you do is you just fold it over the side of the lid, and then you kind of screw the lid tight shut. And then what you do is it just kind of brews by itself. Just make sure it's all submerged properly as much as possible with the parts of the leaf, and have a bit of room for expanding. And you soak it and keep it chilled because you want it nice and cold, I guess. Yeah, it's okay to keep it in the fridge. So you keep it chilled, let it sit, and try to soak it for about 6 hours before you actually get around to drinking it. This is what I can kind of gather from like little parts of like the instructions at the back. But yeah, it'd be really cool to try it out. You can see it just looks pretty cool how the color just kind of trickles from the bottom of it. And then I just left it here when I took a nap before the construction going on outside. And yeah, and it's already pretty dark in color, so I'd be interested to try it out, but it'd be nicer to have it cold, so I'll probably put it in the fridge after this. And finally, after all that shopping haul, I'm a little hungry, so let's have a look at this. So it's called I think this was called the chocolate cheese. Yeah, this was called the chocolate cheese slice. So essentially, I don't know if you can see. That's what it looks like. That might help. Like that. It is? Is that what they do? So yeah, it's kind of like a cheese layer and then like a chocolate crumble on top, and I guess like more chocolate. If I just try it, it might be able to actually tell you. But yeah, it's really cute, this box. I actually would love to keep it for something if it was like cleaner. Ooh. This is also at room temperature. I was considering putting it in the fridge, but they left it at room temperature display, so I didn't actually chill it because I wasn't sure if it should go in there. Right. The top layer, the chocolate, as soon as it hits you, it has a very different flavor to the kind of chocolate flavor you often associate with, say, like cocoa powder and stuff, on top of this kind of stuff here in Australia. It has more of like almost like a granulated sugar kind of bite and flavor to it, but not like actual sugar. Don't really know how to explain it, but it's not super cheesy. The cheese layer actually has a really nice texture. It's kind of like a bit like a cheesecake, but almost like a bit fluffier kind of baked one. But it's not super yellow, so I'm guessing it's not as cheesy, or it probably doesn't have a lot of egg inside or some other kind of fat, because the color's so white, I'm guessing. Because I don't really often see like cream cheese layered baked stuff that are so white. One of the things I forgot to mention about the red tea is on the back it does mention that because basically they're going to be open once you start using one by snipping the 2 packs in half. Black tea does not like humidity, so try to seal either the whole box, or the whole packet, or put it in like some sort of Tupperware, probably rubber band them, and just seal it airtight, because they don't want too much humidity messing around with them. It does smell so good. I actually really like black tea that are more citrusy type, like Earl Grey. Yeah, it's gonna be really nice. Anyway, so I must apologize first. I'm really sorry if I sound very scattered in terms of my mind all over the place when I'm talking. I'm very used to being like more sort of like direct when I chat with people. Like when they throw a question at me or something, I'll be able to answer more directly, because I'm a very intuitive talker, as you can probably see. I'm just kind of very easily distracted. My mind kind of jumps everywhere, a little bit of this and a little bit of that I want to talk about, and I'm just generally not used to having things disordered and also talking to you guys. So let me know if there's anything that you would prefer to hear more about. If you have any ideas, that would also be pretty cool. One of the things I kind of wanted to talk about is that I thought I might combine with this episode, considering you're already here for tea time, is... let me get comfortable first. Old man must get comfortable. It's very important to know that a lot of people, even with like baking becoming so predominant in so many people's homes, there's still so many of my friends and people that I come across that think, baking is, it's just so hard. It's not. It's so easy. If you can bake a cake mix like that you get from the shelves, you can bake. It's not going to be too hard from there. It's like a little step up, but it's just probably because people keep overloading with you, like with all this information about baking, that you find it so scary, but it really isn't. And it's actually quite fun learning about these stuff. So if you're like me and you've always wanted to bake, but no one in the family ever got around to teaching you, so you just wanted to try and learn it yourself, internet will help you so much. I just learned mine from the internet straight up, just looked at a lot of things and just trial and error, and you eventually just get there. It only took me about maybe Sorry, I got distracted because the window's on this side and I have a neighbor and she kind of just always looks at me like I'm weird, probably because I got the window wide open and I'm talking to a camera. Yeah. So she quickly wheeled down the the blinds just to be like, oh no, everyone, don't look. I lost my train of thought. Baking is not hard. People can do it, and even the most experienced people start from really funny mistakes, really stupid mistakes. People who go through courses still make a lot of mistakes. People who are pros will still make mistakes. So it's okay to make mistakes, and it's actually part of the fun sometimes, especially when you look back at them. It's hilarious. And I want to talk about some of the stories of when I first started, which I often used to teach, used to talk and teach new people at work, just to let them know that if you think I'm amazing, this is where I started, this is how I was when I started. So basically, this is the kind of things I thought would be useful and why I want to do Tea Room and chat with you guys, just have some tea time with you, because I want you to know that this is the kind of things that people don't always talk about, and I happen to miss out on channels, baking programs and that kind of stuff, whatnot, that it is actually so easy to make mistakes, and how what is the best way to maybe start from cooking from home if you've never baked before. Say if you only baked from the box mix before in the past. So when I started, I was still studying a different degree, so I was with no experience of baking at all. Our family always just baked little muffin cupcakes from the box, and that to me was delicious, and I was very used to that kind of flavor. But once I started baking from scratch, it was definitely, you can tell that there's a very different flavor of box mix cake to cake that you make from scratch. It's very different, and you most likely usually won't go back to it because it just doesn't taste the same. So when I started, my approach was, I just Googled, just started looking things up on the internet, just any question you have, type it up on Google, just type out your question, and then chances are someone at some point has recently or in the past asked about that question on the forum or something, so you should be able to look up a lot of information. And now these days there's a lot of videos. For example, this one will probably be relevant to you now if you're just about to start baking, which I didn't have when I started baking. So what I did was I actually looked up stuff, and I think I started off looking at a recipe from joyofbaking.com. It's a great website. If you want to, I'll link it down below. It's an amazing website with lots of information in the recipe about what it is usually that the recipe is. There'll be a background, lots of conversions for the recipe, both in metric and cups, and really well written in detail, and also comes with videos most of the times as they upload new recipes. So it's the fastest way to learn. So the fastest way to learn definitely is Googling and researching everything up, just typing up the basic questions so you can prevent some of the mistakes and just know what you're doing. And it's very interesting for you. If you're interested in baking, it should be. And obviously looking for video or picture references, because those are the easiest to see exactly the texture and stage that you're looking for in each stage of the baking of that recipe. What I ended up doing is I went to buy the ingredients, and it was the first time I really went into the baking aisle and actually looked at the things properly. And it seemed a bit daunting because there's so much choice of everything, apart from just brand wise of say corn flour, there's a million brands. There was so many different kind of sugars: brown sugar, confectionery sugar. In Australia we call it pure icing mixture or pure icing sugar, which are two completely different things but kind of similar. Being the very generous person I am, I bought literally I sweep the shelf pretty much. Bought so for example pure icing sugar and pure icing mixture, which are two different but kind of similar things. I ended up buying both as well. Never ended up using the pure icing mixture. I'll talk about it in another episode about what the difference is. That would be a very interesting topic to talk about in terms of ingredients in general. So that's how I started. I thought I might mention a few funny stories about how things went wrong when I was baking. So, everything's kind of new to you if you've never really baked before. And one of the things I did was I remember very fondly is gingerbread. I tried baking gingerbread in the first year, I think, when I was baking, and I was like, yeah, it's festive, it's getting festive. Let's, what's more festive than having little gingerbread cookies? I love like buying them from a canteen when I was in prep school. They're like so soft and, delicious flavor, and just, it's great. And just one of those little things that make you so happy. So I baked them, and if you're ever like a Nokia user, Nokia phones are rock hard. It's like people always say, and I always say too, that knowing like how steady our Nokia phones have been in our family, if a Nokia phone drops on the cement, it might be the cement that cracks. That's how hard it is. And let's just say my gingerbread man turned out looking fantastical. I'll probably insert a photo if I can find it from Facebook. But they were so hard that they were harder than a wall. Like I would bang it on the wall in the kitchen, and it was like ding, 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 and it did not chip at all. And if you've never had a gingerbread man, it's a cookie that you can literally just gently bend and break apart with your fingers. So I think I either overmixed, or I probably overmixed and also overbaked it, so it becomes very hard, which I later on learned. And I haven't made a gingerbread since then, actually. Not that I'm so scared of or anything, it's just never gone back around. Just the occasion never arose, I guess. So still haven't done that yet, but that was a very interesting one. So no one obviously ended up eating it, but they were pretty amused by me just kind of banging on the wall and being like, is this good? It's pretty hard. And of course, me being the baker, knowing how bad it is, I did not touch it either. So it went straight into bin. A bit sad. The other really funny story was when I made fudge brownies for the first time. I think before then I've had fudge brownies when we did box cakes as well. But that was the first time I made fudge brownies. And I've had fudge brownies plenty of times from school or when other people make it. So, as again, one of the things I started off making because it's just simply based on what I want to eat. And so I was like, oh, that would be nice. And I've already baked a few cakes by that point, especially some little baked cheesecakes, like in muffin size. Which went really well, and that was from joyofbaking.com. The fudge brownie, however, I guess you could always try and prepare someone as much as possible in recipes, but you might not think of someone's stupidity. And in that case, that's a perfect example. I made a fudge brownie. It was fresh out of the oven. It was really, really, really tasty. I had the crumbs. I was just, oh, it must be so good. Fudge brownies, if you do it well, it's meant to be really fudgy and almost like slightly a bit more gooey in the middle part, especially of now with cakes, usually after it cools for a few minutes you can actually flip it straight out and let it cool more, and obviously not sort of like steam and cook it a bit more in the pan that it's in. Brownies are a very different case. You do not flip them out. And I'm pretty sure you know where this is going right now. So, and I was not very good with organizing the kitchen space, and it was a pretty decent kitchen size that we had back at home when I lived with my family. So what I ended up doing was I had like mess all over, like from like bowls to ingredients that I didn't pack away. And then once I was finished baking, I was like, oh gee, I should, I guess cakes are always flipped out. I should flip out this fudge brownie. But there's nowhere to like set it down and flip it. So I was like, I'll just do it in mid-air. Again, another fantastic choice. So the only place that was available left was directly over the gas stovetop that we have at home. Yeah, so I flipped and I could feel hot stuff running through my fingers and crumbling things falling through. Yes, the fudge brownie was disintegrating into tiny pieces right through the wire rack and my fingers. And of course, landing a majority, like a huge chunk, I'm talking, like right into the deepest grooves of the gas stove. So, I wasn't sure how to explain that, but basically for a little while afterwards, whenever someone cooked, you can always smell slightly burnt chocolate. So, stuff happens. And I've gone through stuff like that. The things that you see me make, you might think, gee, that's like ridiculous. That's like, a lot of effort. That's pretty sophisticated, or that's pretty cool. Oh, gee, I wish I could do that. But it started from there. So it's places like that. So it's important to know that even the best people will probably make really funny mistakes and really stupid ones. Sometimes even like after 3 years worth of baking last year, I still had one morning where in a rush of getting to work, I wanted to bake a muffin really quickly because I got up a little bit earlier, but I ran out of time to bake it, so I thought I'll just bring it in silicone mold and chuck it into the oven whilst it was on anyway and just go on and do work. But turned out that it almost baked like an omelette, and I wasn't sure why. And then when I went home, I realized that I've left dry mix bowl, the bowl of all the dry ingredients, just on the side and never incorporated. So it was literally just baking some eggs and sugar and whatnot. So yeah, sugary omelette. There was another time also, one of the famous there was two more like famous things that I did wrong. Was one of them was a glazed donut. I think it turned out almost like a rock as well, because it was a baked donut recipe, but I didn't really know how to do it. And I can't remember if it was yeasted or if it was just more like a cake batter kind of donut recipe, but I think it was yeasted, and it turned out really hard, and I glazed it anyway, so it just looked like this snowy ice glazed icing thing, slightly transparent and almost looking like chest breast shapes, and just really uncomfortable looking. And I tried to pipe some jam in as well, so it was like oozing out. It was pretty sad, and it was really disgusting and very unappealing, so no one ate that one too. And the other time was when I made pound cakes, and I don't think I'm not sure if I get pound cakes right now because I haven't done it for a while, but when I first made pound cakes, it was very difficult to mix by hand, and I wasn't sure how to fold very well, so I'm pretty sure I over mixed it. And when I sliced it up and put it on the plate and left it there for people in the house to just snack on whenever they wanted to, my aunt walked over and she tried one, and she was like, and I was like, what do you think? And she was like, is this meant to be so hard? Is this meant to be so dry? No. So they should be kind of dense but still kind of fluffy. Later on I actually did make pound cake one more time, but I actually tried water bathing it and got a really different kind of cheesecakey kind of texture almost. So it's very interesting that you can do sponge in a kind of a water bath kind of method. Might be worth trying out sometime if you like to. Anyway, I've kept you guys up for long enough, so let me know if there's anything you want to ask, if there's any questions, or if there's anything you would particularly like to talk about down in the comments below. And otherwise, check out my recipe videos. The giant whopping burger cake recipe is pretty darn awesome and really tasty. If you have an event coming up, maybe try making that. Otherwise, I'll see you guys next time in episode 2 of Tea Room. See you, cookies!